Okay, hi folks. So this video is going to be a little tutorial or a practicum about how to work with dissociative or a faint response to what's happened this week with the elections in the United States. So for those of you who don't have a lot of training in trauma and trauma resolution, I'll give just a little bit of background on what a dissociative response looks like. So, a dissociative response is basically a sort of a modern day way of talking about the faint response that is one of 4 or 5 ways that the nervous system naturally responds to or reacts to threat. So the dissociative response is actually one of the most, it's actually one of the last responses that come up. More often, our bodies go into fight, flight, or even freeze before the faint response. It's like a last line of defense. The other thing I'll say about it in that regard is that if we have a dissociative style, if that's kind of our default, it can mean that the prior traumas that we've experienced happened really, really early. So before, when we're infants or even when we're toddlers sometimes, but when we have such little physical power or cognitive power, we don't have the words yet to express what we need. We might just have a cry. We can cry for help. But there are very few options to keep ourselves safe and intact when we're really, really young. So the dissociative response is often associated with trauma that is very, very early, or so profound, so overwhelming, or where there is no escape. There's no possibility of escape. That the powerful one, or the powerful force is so overwhelming and is so close and immediate that there's no chance to fight. There's no way to run and escape. And we've already been seen. We've already been targeted. So the freeze response doesn't help. And it really is this shutdown. It's a hypoactivation of the nervous system. It's a shutdown, that it's like, okay, well, this thing is going to happen. I'm not going to be here for it. So it's like the consciousness and the body separate. And that's kind of a technical description of what happens with dissociation. But there's different gradations of it. So in this situation where Donald Trump has been elected to office again, and democracy itself is being threatened, let alone the lives and well-being of people that we love, or even ourselves, perhaps. It is very, very difficult to orient to this non-specific threat that is somewhere in the future, but we don't know how or when or where it's coming from necessarily. And by where, I mean like a specific point in space that we can literally orient our bodies to, look at, turn our heads, use our orienting architecture to actually orient to the threat and then respond. We can't do that because it's not here yet. Again, it's not specific. It's a potential threat. We don't know how exactly that's going to work and what we can do, being so far removed. We're exposed to all this stuff on the news and social media, but we're not right there. So again, I said this in my previous video, or a previous video, that the modern day threats are very complicated because we have the same threat response system in our brains and bodies, in our nervous system as it relates to our musculoskeletal system, as it relates to our endocrine system. That's all the same as before, but now we're dealing with these non-specific threats in terms of time and space, and how do we actually deal with that? Okay, so big breath. If you are experiencing numbness, fogginess, a sense of lack of direction, like, oh, what do I do next? Kind of floating, kind of in your mind, in your head, but not really productively thinking, just kind of this spaced out quality. If you feel overwhelmed, if you feel paralysis, this can be in the camp of dissociation or the faint response. And so what I'm going to show you right now might seem very simple. It is very simple, but it might seem deceptively simple as a helpful tool in these times. And again, these somatic tools are not meant to take the place of community action, of connecting with the people in our community who we need to connect to right now. That's like number one. That's so important. Whether we're showing up in solidarity, whether we're needing for ourselves to connect, or both, it's usually both anyway, this isn't meant to take the place of that, or this isn't meant to take the place of community or political action, but it is a way of starting at home, so to speak, resourcing ourselves, getting ourselves okay as possible so that we can support other people. Just kind of like a reset button. So I'm just going to show you a few things now. One thing that can be really, really helpful for dissociation, for kind of numbing out, for fogging over, is self-touch. And one in particular that I like is when we place our hand somewhere on our head. Could be your forehead, could be the base of the skull, could be anywhere. You can just try different things, what feels good to you. It could be your face. But one hand, at least one hand on the head somewhere. I really like the forehead right now, just as I sense that, it feels really good. And then one hand somewhere, maybe on the torso, somewhere else, maybe the heart, or maybe the belly, the diaphragm, near the diaphragm that moves when we breathe deeply. And just sense, so notice how when you actually feel, so it's not just I'm placing my hands on my body and that's supposed to do something. No, we feel it, we place the hands, and then we really sense. I sense my hand against my forehead. I sense my hand against my stomach. My hands feel my body, and my body feels my hands. And I just experience that touch. I feel the coolness of the fingertips, my ring finger and my pinky, and a little bit my middle finger, and then with my palm I feel warmth. I start to tune into my breath more. I feel the way my breath is moving my diaphragm and my belly. And I notice what happens between my hands in this space. Now my hand's getting tired because I need to do more weight training. This is so grounding for me. It settles the thoughts. It clears the brain fog. And it brings me out of numbness. I actually sense temperature, energy, rhythms in my body. I love it. My neighbor's over there whistling on this beautiful day. I'm hearing the birds chirp in my yard. So just see how this one works for you. I feel like I could just stay like this for hours, actually. Making sure that you're breathing fluidly, you're not holding your breath. Maybe touching your abdomen is an invitation to let your belly go. We're taught to kind of like, we're supposed to suck in our bellies. Let your belly go. Notice how good it feels. I'm noticing how good it feels to let those muscles really relax and let the oxygen from my breath nourish the cells in my belly. Okay, so that could go on, but that's just one example. Just really sense and give it time. So embodiment takes a little time, not a lot, but again, as I said, like, don't just stick your hands on your body and kind of go, oh, nothing's really happening. You got to kind of give it a minute, and really you're sensing, you're feeling. Okay. I know this is really new for some people. For others, it's not. Okay. This is a nice one for dissociation. Another really good one, again, just the point is to really, really bring us gently into the body, and again, really to feel and to sense, is to just, you can brush, starting at the top of the head, the face. Just brush your body. Or you can tap, again, depending on who we are and our histories. Different things feel safer or more familiar, but we can just also tap. This is a really, really, really good one. The tapping is really good when our go-to response in life has become numbing. And this is so common now because we are bombarded. There's water from my neighbor's hose flying across the fence. We are bombarded with information. We're privy to things happening all across the world, atrocities. And our bodies, our mammal bodies, are not built to deal with that. We're dealt to be able to respond to threats and hurts that happen to us and to our family and friends, like our immediate, like our tribe. That's how our hardware is still built. Our hardware is not set up. Our nervous systems are not set up to handle all that we are exposed to. So we numb. We numb out. We don't mean to, we don't try to, but that's what happens. It's overwhelming. It makes sense. And it's good. It's good to have these different ways of coping. But numbing out also has liabilities, right? So this just starts to wake us up. So as you're tapping, you're really feeling, you're really sensing. Yeah, really feel your fingertips making contact. Let your body really wake up with that touch. Okay, so you get the idea. Try to get all parts of your body if that feels okay. It's okay to touch everything, touch everything. Okay. Another really good one, and maybe in my next video I'll bring in some music, but bouncing and swaying are both also very, very good to bring, because dissociation is a hypo-aroused nervous system. So bouncing and gentle swinging or swaying is really helpful for waking up our nervous system, but not popping us over into hyperarousal. So you can just see what it's like see how it feels to sway a little bit or swing a little bit. And we can combine this one with the orienting response, which is just, I'm looking forward at the moment because I'm looking at the camera, but in a sec, I'm just gonna move my eyes and I'm gonna look behind me and I'm really gonna see something behind me. Okay, the color, the beautiful blue blossoms on the Texas Ranger plant behind me. The shape of the tree. The color of the house, the color of the planter. You're really looking and seeing something. And there's some science to this that I won't go into right now. But just let yourself feel that swing or sway. Ooh, that one feels particularly good. This one is really energizing me in a different sort of a way. So I'm noticing that. I'm like, okay, this one, right? And we need to do that. We need to kind of notice which thing really helps balance my nervous system. This one's good for me today. Let your head go. When you get to the bottom there, see how I'm holding it up to look at you and talk to you? Drop it down. Don't hold it. Let your head have its full weight. Okay, again, you get the idea. And the last one I'm going to show you right now is just, okay, that's not true. I'm going to show you a couple more. Bouncing, just bouncing. This just gently energizes the nervous system. It also kind of neutralizes things. So a lot of these are also really good for if you're hyper aroused, if you're in freeze, this freeze response in particular, which is more of a frozen but high energy state as opposed to the faint response. So this is neutralizing, bouncing, swinging, swaying, tapping. It brings extra high energy down and it brings energy into the system when it's too low or absent. So these things actually work for some hyper-aroused states as well. So bouncing, it's simple. We all know how to bounce. The last thing I'm going to talk about is orienting. And basically what's happening here is we are just practicing resetting the nervous system by using our visual cortex, by using our visual system and what's called the orienting architecture, which are eyes, the muscles of the eyes, head, neck, and upper shoulders especially, but torso. So what happens when there is a specific threat in our environment is the first thing that we do typically is either through sound or sight, we orient to it or we hear it and then we look. And this happens automatically. So we are tuned in so that we can assess the situation in milliseconds. And, oh, is that actually a threat? How much of a threat, right? Oh, okay, just a book dropped. We're cool. And then the nervous system settles down again. Or, oh, that is a threat. I'm preparing to fight or I'm preparing to flee. Again, in our modern day world, we're oftentimes, depending on where we live, what neighborhood we live in, what our conditions are, that can be real for some people. For a lot of us who are probably seeing this video, again, with the election in mind, there's this non-specific, in terms of time and space, threat, but we can still reset our nervous systems when we're especially in a dissociated kind of a state by looking and actually seeing what's around us. So we're really coming into the present moment by using our visual system. And there are particular ways that this is taught. But the main thing is we're just seeing something. You can look at something beautiful. Like right now, I'm looking at this lawn chair that is red, and it's like plastic. I feel like I don't want to say that right now in this video, but it's plastic or something like that. And but the sunlight is coming through it in this way. It's so beautiful. It's like illuminating it and making this like really bright. It almost looks like stained glass or something. So I'm just seeing this chair, and I'm not thinking about it. I'm just noticing it. I'm really taking in, there's 5 slots. There's 5 sort of boards, if you will, for a back structure. It looks kind of wide, so you can take a nice, wide, relaxed sit in it. I'm just going to keep looking around a little bit. Okay, 2 flowers, one's white, one's purple. So sometimes we do counting, look around, find 5 things that are black. Look around, find 4 things that are yellow. Listen for 3 different sounds. You can do it this way too, it doesn't really matter, but this is the orienting practice, and it really helps when we're in a dissociative state. So I hope that some of these techniques helped. Please get in touch with me if there's any confusion, or if you have any questions about this or anything else that I've posted. One thing that I'll say is that every body is a little bit different, and so none of these techniques are going to be the thing that works for everybody. So just try the different things I'm showing you and see what helps you. Really notice, ooh, that brought energy to my nervous system, like I did when I was swinging. I was like, okay, this is the one for me today. Doesn't mean it's the one for me every day, but just 5 minutes of that and my nervous system's reset. So look for what works for you. Try different things and see what works for you, and just keep going until you find one. You'll probably find certain ones that are really particularly helpful to you over time. So my subsequent videos will show you other techniques, somatic techniques for working with particularly with anger, or the fight response, and fear, or the flee response, as well as grief. Okay, so 3 more really important sets of somatic practices to support you during this time. Okay,